So you want to learn Ruby on Rails, and for that you need to install Ruby. In this video, I'll show you how to install Ruby on your machine using rbenv. Now you can install Ruby using Homebrew, and that will let you install a specific version of Ruby. But typically when you're working with multiple projects that you pulled from GitHub or even at your company, which they might be using different versions of Ruby. And for that, it's highly recommended that you use something like rbenv or rvm. These tools allow you to install, manage, and work with different Ruby versions uh, at any given time. Okay, so I'll be using rbenv to install Ruby on my computer. So if you go to this GitHub repository of rbenv package and scroll in the documentation, they have the installation commands. So first you use Homebrew to install rbenv and Ruby build. So let's just copy that and paste in our terminal. Now we have already installed them, so it should be quick for me, but it might take a while for you. All right, so I have installed rbenv and Ruby build. The next command is rbenv init, which basically tells us what specific instructions to follow depending on our environment. So let's run that, and it tells me to add this command in my zshrc file. If you're using bash, you might have to add it in the bash rc file. So let's copy that command, and I'll open my zshrc file, and I'll add that command at the end. Now I've already added that, but yeah, you can just copy paste that at the end of your zshrc file. Save that, and then let's go back to the documentation. Then they suggest closing the terminal window and opening a new one, so changes take effect. You can do that, or you can also do source and zshrc. That'll just reload the zshrc, and you'll have rbenv up and running. Final step is just to use this rbenv doctor script that verifies if it is properly set up. So just copy that, paste in the terminal, and everything looks all right. All right, so you have now installed rbenv on your machine, but you haven't yet installed Ruby. So for that, let's just run rbenv and see what it tells you. So here are the commands that you can use with rbenv. Some important commands are local, which lets you set or show the local Ruby version. So if I run rbenv local, it says no local version configured for this directory because we haven't yet. Global shows the sets or shows the global Ruby version. So rbenv global. I'm using 3.1.0 on my global environment. Then you can install a Ruby version using install command. So rbenv install, and it tells you other flags or parameters that you need to pass to the install command. For example, a specific version. If you want to find out what stable versions are available, you can just run rbenv install list, and that shows you the stable versions for different Ruby versions. Okay, now let's say you want to install a specific version. Just copy that number and do rbenv install and paste that. And I'm not gonna do that because it takes a while, and I already have a bunch of Ruby versions installed on my machine. So once you do that, the next command to look at is version, which shows the current Ruby version. So if I do rbenv version, it says 3.1.0. Again, it's the global Ruby version. If I want to see all the installed Ruby versions, use versions command, and I have these versions set up here. Okay, now if I do Ruby version, it says I'm using the global 3.1.0 version, but if I want to use say 2.7.1, I'll do rbenv local 3. sorry, 2.7.1. Now if I do Ruby version, it says I'm using 2.7.1. And if I check, if I do LSA to show the hidden files, you can see rbenv adds a Ruby version file. And if I see the contents of that file, it says 2.7.1. So that's how rbenv figures out which Ruby version to use depending on this file in its directory. Another project might have this version listed to 3.1.0, and then you'll use that version in that directory. All right, so now that we have installed Ruby, let's try to run some program. So I have a sample Ruby script here, just a sample class that takes a name, and I'm just printing the name of the document. So let's run that ruby document.rb, and it works as expected. That means Ruby is installed and you're good to go. All right, so I hope that was useful, and now you have Ruby installed on your machine. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and if you have any feedback, again, use the comments to let me know, and see you next time.